Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 2 of the new season of That Random Podcast Show. I'm your host, Tyler Chansey, and with me, as always, is the lovable and always so prolific with his prose, Michael Mosley.
I'm like a pro controller. I'm great when you can find me.
Very well said. And actually a very sly segue to what our big focus of discussion will be on this episode of That Random Podcast Show. But a small aside, ladies and gentlemen, apologies for taking a while for this episode to come out. A lot of stuff has happened in between, including but not limited to sickness, more sickness, horrible sickness, begging for the sweet release of death. This is all just me, by the way. I don't really care what's going on with Michael. But let's just say strep throat is a horrible thing, and I wanted to go die in a fire. But I'm back now. We're all good.
Mind you, he came back to the show after doing a podcast with somebody else. You traitor.
Yes, I apologize, but I did also guest star recently on the most recent episode of the Wrong X Button podcast with Chase Riggy and Casey Stanfield. Casey was an old editor of mine, and he thought he'd have me on, and it was a nice therapeutic chance to record on a more, I guess, R-rated podcast to rant about microtransactions and to, talk about other weird stuff. Look it up on Podbean if you guys like episode 38, Hey Kid, Check Out My Third Wooden Leg. I'm in it, it's fun. But I'm here now, I've returned, the prodigal son has returned, and you have not decided to stab me with a pointed stick, Michael, so thank you for having me back.
It's only because I couldn't find anybody to replace you with.
And that is something I'll just have to accept. So, yes, you alluded to it. Pro controllers. To what, dare I ask? The Xbox One?
No, that's the Elite controller. Jeez, man, get your controllers right. But no, we're actually talking about...
They're all grand controllers to me. I just press the buttons on
them. Yeah, they're all
fun.
more expensive than the actual games they're supposed to be played on, or played with, rather. So, yeah, we're...
Yes, we are. Go on, say it.
So, we're going to talk about a few things about the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, at the time of this recording, the Switch has been out for a week. And by the time I finish editing and put this out, like a week and like a couple of days or whatever, but that's fine. So we're gonna do.
I'll have to get our slave driver back in. Just sort of
yeah, no, he's dead for a reason. So.
Oh my gosh! I paid him in advance.
Oh no!
Crap.
You're not gonna get your deposit back.
Ugh, you.
So we're gonna talk about the Switch, give our impressions on it. We're gonna talk about Shovel Knight. And give our impressions on Breath of the Wild, because who hasn't done that yet?
It's a very topical thing, and we are horrible leeches that will latch on to anything that's topical. I mean, we're also really hardcore Zelda fans. Yes.
By the time this game finished, totally. We were. We want to talk a little bit about Andromeda now that they've actually been putting up gameplay for the past few weeks, and it's almost time for the game to drop anyway.
Ah, boy.
And we got a special little D&D topic later on too.
Oh, yes. Michael here has just been introduced to the interesting community that is pen and paper role-playing, so we'll have a bit of a discussion about that. But first, let's get to the big topic at hand, which is, of course, the launch of Nintendo's new console, which is, oddly enough, a weird hybrid of a traditional home console and a handheld. The Nintendo Switch. It's gotten quite a bit of hype ever since it was announced with that trailer back in October of 2016, which, by the way, love it or hate it, that was a banging trailer. A lot was exposed, a lot was talked about without any dialogue. It was a great showcase of the system's unique selling point. And, of course, more information came out about it, Breath of the Wild coming to it. Once again, a major push for third-party independent development, which actually felt a lot more genuine from Nintendo's part, especially since they said that this new system will support the Unreal Engine, modern game framework, and a bunch of other proper, more traditional and accessible engines that indie studios use, which is actually helping with the support job ports and the like. Not a whole lot of major publishers though have really glommed onto it. Like EA is throwing a sports game to it, I think, but whatever. Sega, I guess, has a new Sonic coming towards it, but after Sonic Boom, that's not really saying much. And Capcom has basically said they're not planning anything for the console right now. So it's basically once again exactly what has happened a lot to Nintendo recently. Third parties are hesitant to get on it, but of course you're going to pick one up anyway if you are a fan of any of their first party software, which they have announced will be coming in waves. Launch has the big selling point, Zelda Breath of the Wild, and next month is supposed to be the launch of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. They've already announced a new Splatoon, a new Super Mario Brothers has been announced for it, and a bunch of other stuff. But that's build up. That's the hype train. What about the launch of the Nintendo Switch? How does it feel? How does it play? Is it really as simple and as elegant as the trailer has made it out to be? Michael, how about you start us off?
Nintendo Switch easily had the weakest game launches I've ever seen for any console.
8 games at launch.
And
that's it.
Pretty much only one of them was actually like worth it. There was Zelda Breath of the Wild, which everybody went crazy for, and that's where everybody was going. That's what everybody was going to get anyway.
But let's talk a bit slightly about the hardware, because I have heard there have been some interesting problems and quirks the hardware does have that I think needs to be addressed.
Yeah, okay, so I haven't experienced any of these things, but people have been complaining about dead pixels and the was it the left Joy-Con that would lose signal and wouldn't respond.
It would desync with the machine, which would lead to problems. Like the guy be playing Zelda, he'd be moving Link, then the Joy-Con would shut off, and Link would just keep running in a single direction, and then he'd fall off a cliff or something.
It was supposed to be fixed with the day one patch, but apparently for some people it still doesn't work.
It's still an issue, and apparently people are saying it may be due to too many other wireless devices in the area messing with the signal. That's a theory.
I can go ahead and tell you that is not true. I have a lot of wireless stuff in my home alone, let alone what's going around in my neighborhood. And I've walked around with my Switch in my home, outside while I'm walking, inside public places, at a DMV, at restaurants, in my car.
I've done similar.
And I can tell you, I still haven't received those problems. So I do.
I've done similar tests.
I don't think that's it.
This is anecdotal though. This is anecdotal from you and me. Very small sample size. This is not.
But here's the thing. Like, we see these kind of things, these excuses being used when companies go to conferences and they show off their new hardware and the Wi-Fi doesn't work. It's like, oh, because there's too many people there. It's like, no, that's not a real thing. That's just fluff.
And honestly, it reminded me of what happened when the PlayStation 4 launched, and there was an instance where where the consoles would actually bricked. The problem is that it was a console owned by a major critic, a major video game reviewer, and a lot of people thought, oh no, the PS4 is crap. It might die on you, even though stress tests were like maybe less than 1% failure rate, which is freaking insane when it comes to hardware and the like. And I can't help but feel as if these issues are still a problem, and it's much larger than a fraction of 1%, but it does not represent a major thing. Like, if every single Switch that's sold had this Joy-Con issue, there'd be riots.
Even if it was more than, especially if it was more than 1%, like if it was an ongoing thing, then yeah, if it was like rating a death level, then yeah, Nintendo would be in some trouble.
Having said that, though, the idea of dead pixels happening over time on the LCD screen of the tablet, which is, of course, the big unique selling point of the Switch, the actual machine itself looks like a regular tablet, like an Android tablet, an iPad, whatever, and it links into this plastic dock. You have basically hooked to your television with an HDMI cable and an AC adapter, and when you click it in, it plays it on the screen like with a normal console. But then you can take the tablet out, and the game and everything you have on the machine will be right there, and you can play it on the go and actually slot the controllers in. And people are saying that due to it using an LCD screen, there's a high probability that pixels used in the games you've played will stick to the screen and basically over time make it an unplayable mess. And according to customer service by Nintendo, these tablets will not be replaced for some reason. If the Joy-Con messes up, you can be compensated. If the dock isn't working, it can be compensated. The tablet itself is an issue. 9 times out of 10 won't be reimbursed. And I know there's some YouTubers around that have had this issue and have brought this up as being a big hardware flaw, but it doesn't look good either way. And for the record, people, I'm not crapping all over the Switch. I'm just prefacing all this by saying there have been some issues before we get to the good stuff. And there is some good, but it's some flaws when it comes to this machine's idea. And there's some very quintessential Nintendo quirks to the hardware. Like, for instance, you have save data on the machine. You can transfer, you have your save data. You can put a micro SD card for storage. But if for whatever reason the Switch does act up, in ways I've described before, you can't transfer your save data. You can't transfer to a micro SD and move it to a new machine. For some reason, that's not allowed.
Well, that's because Nintendo has this weird way of controlling things, and everything is on your system, not just your account. It's stuck on your system itself.
I do enjoy that they actually have moved to having your purchase history and your account stuff linked to an actual account rather than locked to the console like they did with the Wii U.
Well, they brought back friend codes, I believe,
which was one of the dumbest things I've heard in a while, because a friend of mine managed to friend request me by searching for my alias, and he found me on the Switch's network. He friend requested me, I accepted, it was fine. And then I found out later on, oh, by the way, friend codes are back. Who the hell uses friend codes?
I don't know. Somebody's using them.
I don't know, but yeah, once again, that's a very quintessential Nintendo quirk. Like, I can't call it bad. I can't call it
it's just
good.
Nintendo. It's just the way they are. They're still learning how to embrace their community, because now the community has gone more than just we believe anything you do, Nintendo, we'll do whatever you say. Now it's like we want some creativity control too, thanks to YouTube and streaming and all this other stuff. And not to mention,
but that's a whole other can.
Not to mention another issue with the Switch: scratch screens. People have been scratching the screens.
Yes, of course. Yeah, because there's no cover or protector for the tablet screen whenever it's in the dock, and sometimes in the production the docks would be a little warped, so whenever you remove it or take it out, the plastic will scrape the tablet screen, leading to scratches. And once again, small sample size that it's making a big vocal splash due to these situations, but it's still something to take into account. And there's, like I said, there's some weird minor things that just don't feel right somewhat. Like whenever the machine is docked, it wobbles a bit. It doesn't feel as secure.
That's one of my big complaints. Like, I was hoping for like a click to let you know that it's in the dock, but like it doesn't. It's just, it slides on there and it's silent, which you think would be great. But no, there was a moment where I put it down.
Then you like double.
Yeah, I was like,
double think. Like, wait a minute.
Like when I put it on my dock, I have to wait there and look at the top screen to make sure the little battery is charging. That the little notification comes up. I'm like, okay, it's on the dock. If I sit there and it doesn't pop up, I'm like, oh, I must have put it on there wrong. And you tip it just a little bit and it goes in. It's like, wow, this really should have been thought better.
Also, moving over now to the operating system, it feels very basic.
It's
honestly,
like, if you are a fan of minimalism, then this is going to be up your alley. It's nothing there.
Like, I like clean and simple interfaces. Like, it's actually why I kind of I enjoy the original operating system for the Xbox 360, and it's also why I enjoy the PS4's operating system layout. But the thing is, when I think of Nintendo's operating systems for the Wii and the like, they always have a lot of fun with their stuff, like the Mii's and the sound effects. It just feels it does a good job with aesthetics and with sound design, putting you in the right mindset of childlike wonder. They do a good job with this with the Wii and the Wii U. The Switch feels somehow a bit more basic. Like Nintendo was like, okay, we gotta make this functional. How about this? That'll do. it does. It feels like it's lacking a bit of the Nintendo
No, it does.
charm, if that
It
makes
absolutely
any
makes sense.
sense.
It really like they had the intern come in, do like a quick sketch of what the UI can be for like a practice to make sure things are working, and they're like, "Oh man, we're like,
But it was so pragmatic and simple. Like, okay, you know what?
yeah, it's
We
like,
gotta
oh,
get
we're
this.
running out of time. We have to launch this thing. Oh, forget it. We could update it later and like call it a 2.0 feature or whatever. Let's just throw it out there. Are those squares working? Yep. All right, good enough for us. Let's launch it."
And that's something else as well. Like, as much as I do enjoy Nintendo's dedication to gameplay polish and game launch and digital convenience, like when it comes to the interface, games, eShop, an album for the screenshots you can capture now. They actually kind of borrowed a page from Sony and include a share button where you can just take a screenshot and
Yeah, no,
share it to your Facebook or your
I'm not
Twitter
gonna
or
say
whatever.
it came like a screen thing from Sony. I would say it's more like they got something from the PC because PC always had that one button picture mode. Like you press a button, screenshot. Yeah, so
Fair
it felt
enough.
like more like a
Fair
PC
enough.
thing, and because that's all you can do is take a screenshot. You can't record 5, 10, 30 seconds of gameplay. It's simply take a picture. It's like, well, yeah, I guess you're moving forward.
I'm
I
actually
guess.
I, I'm actually fine with that. I mean, considering how weird they are when it comes to their own content and stuff with
Yeah,
YouTube,
and you know what?
but
I think that's what
that's
stops
once
them.
let's. I know you want to talk about it, Michael, but I don't think I'm as equipped and like, and I'm trying to keep this show to a small amount of time. We're
Oh,
not gonna make it
do
all
we
the way.
ever?
We try
And
valiantly,
the worst part
but
is
it, it, it
we talk like 30 minutes to an hour before an episode, so you think we have everything out of our systems.
we are a very loquacious bunch. But back to the operating system. As I said, the basic stuff works. The eShop, it works. Being able to buy a game, it works. It's fast, it's simple. The interface, being able to find the game you want, simple. Right there, it's fine. But that's about it, and it's strange saying that out loud. Like, way too often, people are too used to there being other services on these machines, being able to download movies, being able to access streaming services like Netflix or Crunchyroll or VRV, and that's not here. There is no. I mean, the closest thing to video playback are trailers for upcoming games on the eShop, and you can just look those up on YouTube. So yeah, it's very strange because if you're expecting some multimedia device with pretensions of being a game console, you could have just picked up an Xbox One and saved you some time. Oh, sorry,
What
but
was that?
I'm just saying, Microsoft made a massive mistake when it came to the Xbox One. But the fact remains, though, is that I do enjoy that Nintendo has gone about the Switch on their own terms. Like they didn't follow the trends of multimedia streaming, and they did not release this during the holiday season. They released this thing in March
You
of
know, it was a
all
good thing because one,
times.
it's early in the year. Two, tax returns. Three, there's no competition.
Yep,
Microsoft already, I mean, Sony had already released their PS4 Pro.
the PS4 Pro, the Xbox
Yeah,
One S has
and the
come out,
Scorpio doesn't come out till
and
this
Microsoft
holiday.
is
So releasing it this holiday would be a mistake.
yeah.
So doing it this early in the game, it's summer. People got time off. They got their tax return. It's a good time
Which
to buy a new system.
Yep, yep. Which does bring me to the positives finally, by the way. For one, the Switch is selling amazingly
Well, okay,
well.
it's selling amazingly
The
well, but
Switch,
there's a reason for it. It's a good system. I
yes,
for anybody who's been
yes.
who listened to our old podcast that's no longer around, I was very conservative about the Switch. I was not excited for it at all. Even leading up to the day that it was coming out when they finally released that when they said it was going to be released on March 3rd, I accidentally
Mm-hmm.
pre-ordered the system. Like I was even going to pre-order it cuz I just wasn't excited for the system cuz Nintendo they didn't really show anything that made me excited for the system. Like was it cool? Yes. That I think was innovative? Yeah. But you know, the one thing that counts for me, games. They didn't. They showed some, but it was, everything was like coming soon, launch window, coming soon. Like no, nothing had like a clear date. So I'm gonna say it. I was wrong. I'm glad I was wrong, and I'm glad I got this system. I've been playing this thing. every day since it came out, even when I was doing stuff. I went to the DMV, brought my Switch. I went to a car shop for my mom's truck. I brought my Switch with me and showed it off to my mom. I went to the mall. I took my Switch with me. I took my Switch with me when I was ordering food at McDonald's. I brought that thing everywhere just to test it out, just so I can see how the battery life was, how good the screen was outside the outside off the TV, and inside a public place and outside in general. Con about that, it is awful taking it outside. The system's oh my goodness, the
Oh, the
system
glare.
screen was not meant for that. And granted, there's not a lot of screens that you can take outside in the middle of the day and see perfectly. But yeah, it's pretty much unplayable. And I live in Oklahoma, by the way, so the sun is shining pretty bright.
But yes, that is the major positive. You've hit the nail on the head with Michael. Everything you see in the trailers about how easy it is to just take it to switch from TV mode to handheld mode, it is painless and simple and easy as heck to do, and it is the exact same experience wherever you go. Like, I actually had a similar situation. I had to take my car in to get repairs. I took my Switch with me, thinking, well, my 3DS is charging, and I don't want to play too much of Fire Emblem Heroes on my phone, so I took my Switch with me in the waiting room, took it out, and I pulled up Shovel Knight and started playing it, and then I realized, wait a minute, I could be going back to my save file on Zelda here. And so I did, and it hit me, this is a full-blown Zelda adventure on the go. And the only thing that was lost in terms of graphic fidelity was the resolution. And when that happened, I just had this moment of zen, this moment of, oh my god, this is amazing. This is wow. And that doesn't happen nearly enough for guys like us. Like, you can crank up the hardware, you can crank up the GPU, you can crank up the fidelity. You could say, look how realistic we're making this thing. And I'm saying, like, okay, whatever. This is innovative in a true sense. The idea of bridging handheld and console gameplay and making it easy, making it simple. Another situation happened as well. I was with friends, and a guy was with us, some new friend. I'm still, talking now. He's a nice guy, and he mentioned how he liked old platformers, and so I took my Switch out, used the little kickstand, put it on top, took out the Joy-Con controllers, turned them on side, handed one to him, held onto the other one for myself, and I booted up Shovel Knight and activated the co-op mode. He lost his mind. The chiptune the pixel art went, and he gravitated to the Joy-Con controller immediately. He was jumping and slashing and having a time. We were adults, and suddenly we were 10 again, in public, and we didn't give a damn. That is magical. That is why I still have faith in what Nintendo does, because they are masters at doing this, and that is epitomized with the Switch.
See, I'm glad you were able to have that level of fun because mine is still a single player kind of level. And I've only had one person who was like, oh my gosh, is that the Switch? That's so awesome. Wish I had one. And it just made me wish that I had more stuff to show it off with, like with the Wii. The first day I brought it home, I had a few games that showed off the controller.
Wii Sports.
Oh yeah,
Twilight
yeah, that, and
Princess.
even Ubisoft's Red Steel. As much as people didn't like that game, I actually thought it was pretty cool.
It was a fun tech
Yeah,
demo.
yeah, it was pretty fun. This one, I'll be having like 1-2 Switch, and I didn't even get that because that space is a glorified demo that should have came with the system.
Party
Yeah,
games. It was a bunch of party
and I'm not
games.
getting Just Dance. Forget that.
That's what's funny. Like, the games I chose to test out was Snipper Clips, that co-op puzzle game, which, by the way, is adorable as all get out, ladies and gentlemen. It is cute. and it's pretty fun. So check that out. And of course, I mentioned Shovel Knight, Yacht Club Games. Once again, people keep saying how easy it is to develop for this thing. Yacht Club Games showed off. Like, hey, here's Shovel Knight. Here's all this. Here's all the stuff we've put out for Shovel Knight so far on the Switch. Boom, done. It's that simple.
Yeah, we're actually going to talk about Shovel Knight in a moment. But
Of
before we
course,
get to that,
there are a few things we still need to discuss, like the Joy-Con
I
controllers.
had
These things are
yeah, I had no
small.
problem with that actually. I'm surprised with how well they
Yeah,
actually work.
that is the bizarre
With the
thing.
exception
Like,
of I wish it was a little longer because the buttons on the left Joy-Con below the stick. Sometimes I just find it kind of weird trying to hit them when playing Zelda. But we'll talk about that when we get to actual when Zelda's issues with controls.
we'll get to it immediately, but yeah, it's really weird. Like for size references, I looked at the Joy-Con and compared it to the size of a standard Wii remote. The Joy-Con is a little over half the size of the Wii remote controller. If you guys have any Wii remotes in your home, just to give you guys an idea of size. These things are small, and people I've talked to keep saying, "Oh my gosh, these things are too small. I can't because I have fat hands. I can't do that." I have big hands as well. I guess it's a brag. I don't know. Take for that what you will. But I was able to very quickly gravitate towards the Joy-Con controller in a very organic way, and I didn't. It didn't feel like a problem. Like these are very well made controllers. The matting is very nice. It's smooth. It feels effortless to play, and the control sticks are well done. Like everything about these things are selling for like individual pairs, like selling for like $80 each. I can see where the money went.
Yeah, another thing I like about the system is that I know it's gonna be weird to say, but that air vent within the system,
Oh yeah, the vent is actually like on top of the tablet while
yeah,
it's
it's on
docked.
top
So
because like you can feel the back getting a little warm, but it didn't really overheat, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And the top of that vent is way bigger than I thought it would be. It takes up a good chunk of the top right. Yeah, I believe the top right, and you can feel the air coming out of it if you put I put my face to it because I was like, oh, it,
you want to cuddle with
yeah,
your
like oh,
Switch? Just be
is
honest.
that my vent? I put my face to it, and even that was it was quiet and
That's what
it
blew
was
my mind as
easy.
well. Like
It was easy.
this thing just this console takes up less space than my Wii U. Like this thing is tiny, and yet it blows the Wii U out of the water in terms of what it's capable of. And this is coming from somebody who bought a Wii U and loved every day I had with
I
it.
did not. I regret. I didn't. I don't regret my Wii U, but I have maybe 2 3 games on my Wii U, and I'm pretty sure I'm already getting more playtime out of my Switch than I did my Wii U.
Which is saying something. But pricing is another big thing I can't say. Like for everything you get out of the package of the Nintendo Switch machine, I can see where the money went with the Joy Cons. I can see where the money went with the tablet. I can see where the money went with the straps for the Joy Con. That's
And you
simple
know
enough.
what? For 300, it came with a lot. Yeah, it came with the HDMI cable and all that nonsense. But no, I'm talking about the dock itself, which is part of the system. But they basically gave you 3 controllers because you have the Joy Cons, which can become 2 different controllers, so you can play 2 player games
Yep.
right out of the box. And then,
Which, by the way, is
oh yeah, I
brilliant.
loved it. I love the idea of giving
It,
you
it,
two
it
different controllers, but they are the same controller, and it's all one system. But you can take it apart and hand it to a friend, and bam, instantly 2 player games right there.
like I mentioned before with Snipper Clips and Shovel Knight, how simple it was and how quick it was. There's also the grip controller where you can slip the
And
Joy Cons in
yeah,
and it acts like
and I
a
was just gonna
regular
bring that up. That
controller.
grip controller, magnificent. I was gonna go out and buy a pro controller, but
It
this
feels
thing, I'd rather keep
if
this
it feels
thing.
the handles feel a little hollow and it feels a little awkward at first, but I grew accustomed to it immediately.
This thing actually kept me from buying a pro controller. Like, oh yeah,
Really?
I was gonna get a pro controller until I tried out this thing, and you know what? I'm not even gonna pick up a pro controller. I'm just gonna keep this.
I may pick one up later on, but it's not a must get. But that's me. But yeah, there's a lot to really do enjoy here, and like we said, it is exactly as simple as it sounds. Like I was playing Breath of the Wild, and once again I had to go out and do something. I actually went to a restaurant to order some food for takeout, and I'm a luddite, so I didn't call in advance. So I'm like, okay, I'll go place an order. So the Joy Cons very quickly, by the way, out of the grip. They're well secured, by the way. This can't be abused. There's a button on the back of it. You can just use it to slide out. Clicked it into the tablet, pulled it out of the dock, took it with me, and immediately. And for the record, I didn't turn the console off. Zelda was still on the screen. Boom, on the tablet without missing a beat.
Yeah,
That's where it got me.
I'm glad
That's
you can move
beautiful.
around the controls without your game technically being interrupted. It doesn't like go to a main menu on a screen. It's like controls have been disconnected. It's like, oh no, you're supposed to do that. Pop it off. You can continue playing right away. So we talked
Yes,
about the good. Now we're going to talk about the negative, which honest.
we did talk about the
Well,
negative.
we didn't really go into it. We like brushed on it, but I guess we should.
As I said, there are some issues though with the pricing of some items.
Well,
One, I do have a
we
very.
should really stick with what we actually have because
I was talking about what
oh,
we
what'd you
actually
get?
have. I'm talking about that overpriced plastic
Oh,
dock.
yeah. The
Yeah, yeah.
accessories for this thing is ridiculous.
Here's the thing though. The grip controller you get will not charge the Joy Cons. In order for you to charge the batteries of these, they're basically new generation Wii remotes, for lack of a better term. You have to snap them into the tablet of the Switch while it's docked. I'm not angry about that though, because the projected battery life of those controllers is 20 hours. Those are
And
not going to die on you during a
yeah,
long-term
I believe
session.
it because as many times I had to charge my Switch, the controllers have never lost a single point. I don't even think I forget. Like, oh, I'm supposed to charge these. It's like, oh no, don't worry. They last longer than the console they pop into.
Which is
Oh yeah,
amazing.
it's
But,
great.
so yeah, the $30 grip controller that charges the remotes, you don't need
Oh,
that.
absolutely not.
Unless
No, you.
unless you're a streamer that's doing like some 50-plus hour marathon for a charity event, maybe. But even then, that's a small
Yeah,
demographic.
when you're taking a break, you
But
can just pop them in. But now that we've gone through all that, final thoughts.
I still
Switch. Was it worth it for you?
I would say the problem right now is if we're talking strictly hardware, I could tell where the money went. But my biggest contention right now with the Switch as a console would actually have to be the pricing of its support and and what exactly I got out of it in terms of quality. Like there's a kickstand for the tablet controller for you to play, but it feels unbelievably cheap. Like you could it feels like if I pinch it and twist it, it would snap off like a cheap action figure, and I don't like the feeling of that. It also doesn't help that it also doubles as a cover for micro SD cards, which the Switch uses for internal storage. And to Nintendo's credit, they did state that they will support micro SD card storage going up to at least a terabyte, and that's amazing because the highest storage micro SD card in on the market is like 250 gigs. So right now, right there, its storage space compared to the Wii U is phenomenally better. But there's just some small problems that just don't make the Switch feel as reliable of a machine as it should be. Like I mentioned before, there's some wobble whenever you have it docked. There's no click. It doesn't feel secure. There's some problem. It feels like there's a problem there. The dead pixels on the LCD screen. They need to fix that, or at least find a way to mitigate that, or find a way to reimburse, because that is basically your machine. You don't want that to be a problem. Otherwise, congratulations, your console handheld hybrid just lost half of its unique selling points, and a lot of people are going to get burned by that. And also the dock. This dock is basically a charger, and it's basically a cradle for the Switch. It's not even a charger. It's a cradle with the USB ports and the HDMI cable ports in the back. It's made of cheap plastic. It feels really cheaply manufactured, and all it does is basically hold the Switch while it charges it and broadcasts it to the television. They're charging $90 for that. That is way too much. That is just not nearly as much. Like I said, cheaply made, overpriced, and in some respects, you can almost say that that's part of the problem I do find with the Switch. For $300, I know what I got, but with no games packaged into it, that's at least north of $360. On the other hand, though, control two-player gameplay right off the bat. Its eShop is up. It actually has, despite having very little to launch with, it actually has a diverse amount of genres of games. It has I Am Setsuna, a JRPG. It has Fast Remix, a racing game. It has its big console seller, Breath of the Wild. That's their Super Mario Brothers. That's their Halo. This is why you get the system. They have a bunch. There's enough diversity there. My issue comes with support and how they'll handle it. And there are some questions as to how it'll be supported down the line. Like, where's the virtual console? How will it handle the virtual console? How will it handle paid multiplayer down the line? Which is a problem, because Nintendo hasn't done this before, and speculation is saying it may actually be kind of worse than what Microsoft and Sony are having in terms of services rendered, which, once again, they may surprise us, or they may not care, which is a problem. But that's speculation. The hardware as it stands right now, I'm very content with the Switch. I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I got it when I did, and I am loving what I'm playing on it right now. But this is coming from an ardent Nintendo fan. I've been a fan of their work ever since I was little. So take that for what you will, but this is a much better launch. This is a much better first impression than what the Wii U came with, and it shows. And Nintendo are known for supporting their machines. Like, the Wii U sold horribly, they kept it going for 4 years with strong first parties. Some of their best work ever, honestly. But of course, there's still the problem with third-party support in indies. But, well, the indies are definitely going to be supporting it. Ukulele is coming to the Switch. A bunch of good stuff is coming to it. There's just a matter of how they'll forward it, and I'm confident with that. So, if I was to give out a review of an out of 10 review of the Switch at launch as to right now, I would give it roughly a 7.5 out of 10. It needs some work with its hardware. There's some problems there. There's some QA issues. There's some customer service issues. But what it needs, it's got it in spades. It's got a good, unique selling point. It's got really solid fundamentals, and in terms of quality, mostly it delivers.
All right, fair enough. Seven, yeah, 7. I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, again, I was very critical about when it was first announced.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm in love with it now, but it doesn't mean it's flawless. The eShop is worse than what the 3DS and even the Wii U had when it first launched. It's lacking huge features. Not just streaming service and stuff. It was like in general. I don't even think they like their eShop. I don't even think they have a demo section up or anything.
they do have a demo. They do have a demo for Snipper Clips, I think.
Right,
That's about it.
right. But there's that. All you can, like you said, all you can really do on the eShop is download games and watch gameplay videos. So it's just like a glorified Nintendo only YouTube channel. I'm not a big fan of the battery life. So far, I've been only getting about 2 hours from Breath of the Wild on the go. Which, hey, it's a big game, so I'm not surprised that it's eating up battery.
I do need to clarify that, though. Like, that is not the baseline for the battery life. I've also been playing other games on it, and I've managed to get maybe 4 hours battery life out of it. It's just that Breath of the Wild is so hardware intensive that it eats at the battery a bit more.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. I've been hearing people get like 4.5 hours out of their Switch. I mean, I've been playing Shovel Knight, but not like that, and so I can't really gauge that one. But yeah, Breath of the Wild alone takes up 2 hours.
But here's the thing, though. People say that's a terrible battery life, but I actually had similar playtimes out of my sessions with Monster Hunter on the 3DS, which is another hardware-intensive game on the 3DS. And the 3DS usually has maybe a 6-7 hour battery life. Monster Hunter eats up to 3 hours. So on the whole, compared to the 3DS, the Switch is actually kind of on par.
Yeah, so I want to see how that would do.
It's not awful. I would say it's mediocre.
Well, yeah, it's like subpar, but that's not even a bad thing, really. It's something you should be aware of if you're going to take Zelda on the go, like I do. I even went and bought a, USB-C cable for my car just so I can charge my Switch. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I went that far, and I'm glad they don't use proprietary accessories for it. You can just go out and buy any regular USB-C. So thank goodness for that.
And you can just go and get a standard micro SD card and just
Yeah, and just
slip it.
pop
Slip it
one
in.
in there. Sony and your stupid make believe memory cards for your PSP and PS Vita.
My God.
Oh man, but getting back on track for the Switch, all that stuff that Nintendo showed off in their advertisements about putting the Nintendo Switch outside and playing party games, I don't know how that's going to work because so far when I take this thing outside, the screen is garbage out there. Like I wouldn't show any. I would ask somebody, "Hey, you got like a 10 or something we can go play this in?" I would not play this outside on somebody's patio because the screen does not work out all that well outside. The controllers feels good. The Joy-Con actually works. Disclaimer, like we said earlier, neither one of us have experienced
Experienced the Joy-Con problem.
the Joy-Con issue, but it is a thing. Nintendo is well aware of it, and I'm sure there's gonna be another patch to try and fix that for the few who has it. Um, I don't know anything about the online functions. Splatoon 2 isn't out, so that's whatever.
Although we'll be having like a global test fire on the 23rd, 24th, we'll probably let you know our opinions when that happens.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I'm gonna try that one out.
Yep.
And so,
So
all in all, I would say it's worth it. I do mine out of 5, so I would give like a 3.5 out of 5. It would be a 4, but again, that eShop and online functions, I'm holding off to see how that goes because that is a feature for the Switch. So I'll reserve judgment for that later.
of course, and I mentioned before that I'm a big archivalist when it comes to gaming legacy, which is why I keep watching the Virtual Console and how Nintendo handles that. But hopefully, they get their stuff together. I'm always optimistic. But that's the hardware. Now, let's segue. We've alluded to it ad nauseum because we are horrible like that. We're big fat teases. There are two big things right now for the Nintendo Switch that I would say are basically the equivalent of exclusives. Of course, the big one is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That did also launch as well on the Wii U, but we got Switches, we got Zelda, we want to talk about there, and Shovel Knight coming to the Switch. But, of course, Shovel Knight's been on every other platform. We are talking also about the third downloadable adventure for Shovel Knight that revolves around the character of Spectre Knight, the campaign Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment, which is going to be on the Switch only as a timed exclusive for a month. So, it's effectively a timed exclusive for the Nintendo Switch. And it's also available as a standalone, as $10, or you can get it as part of the big Treasure Trove bundle of Shovel Knight, which includes the original game, the Plague Knight campaign, and the Spectre Knight campaign. And those are really the big ones that people are talking about. There's also Fast RMX, but I don't think any of us have played that. But we want to focus, on this show at least, those two big ones. And I think it would be good to focus on Shovel Knight first, because I want to keep you people waiting about how we want to talk about Zelda, because I'm evil. Michael, I've talked about Shovel Knight before in passing and how much I enjoy it, but I haven't really heard a whole lot about your thoughts on it. And you haven't playing it on the Switch, so please discuss.
So, all right, I've been playing a lot of the Spectre, and
Spectre of Torment. Yep.
yep. And I'm sorry, man. I don't feel it. I don't.
What?
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm a fan of those old school, the games that try to hark back to the old school ways of platforms and dungeon crawling and side scrolling and all that. But for some reason, when it comes down to Shovel Knight, I just couldn't really get into it. And
You're dead to me.
I know, man. I'm sorry, but all in all, it's mostly because of the biggest issue the game has: controls.
You don't like the controls.
They seem fine, except on the Nintendo Switch, because Nintendo has their Y's and their X's and B's and A's in different places compared to like regular controllers. Sometimes I would mess up. That's on me. But my issue right now is Spectre. It's Spectre, right?
Yeah, Spectre
No,
Knight.
yeah, the character you're playing. he sticks to everything. I do not like that. You can't really
He,
dodge very well when he automatically sticks to things and want to runs up every wall.
that's his selling point though.
Right,
That's his movement
right.
thing.
And that's my biggest issue. And that's why I couldn't really get into it. He sticks to everything. And sometimes you need a
Not
time.
everything.
Well, not everything, but like to certain walls because some walls are smoother than others. But we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
When you're trying to dodge or avoid something, you try to jump out of the way, he will automatically stick to a wall and try to run up the wall. And of course, you're trying to dodge, so you're jumping and trying to hit a ledge. Instead, he'll latch onto something, run up a wall, and you're gonna hit A because you don't want to be on said wall. So you go flying off somewhere else, and this thing you're attacking may send you flying upwards or downwards. You have no control over that, and I did not like that.
I'm. How much of Mega Man X have you played? Because
Mega Man
I
X,
actually got into.
Mega Man X, none. But I did play the other Mega Man games, but I didn't really get into
Okay,
X.
that might explain a bit because Mega Man X had a wall kick mechanic, which is kind of similar to how Spectre Knight moves, and I played a lot of the old X games, so I gravitated towards that a lot faster. And I will say the diagonal slash attack that Spectre Knight has, where if you attack an enemy in the air, and depending on whether or not you're above or below him, you'll do like a slash, going upwards or downwards. That did take me a while to get used to, but once I got used to it, everything else just clicks. Like the level design is based revolves around both that and the wall running. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
done
and
so well.
that made me so sad because I was having fun at the time. At certain moments of the game.
You could appreciate the polish.
Oh,
Like this,
yeah, absolutely.
this is a well-made game.
Yeah, like it's not a broken game. Like it works well.
You're just getting a little salty
It's
because
the
you're
mechanics.
figuring it out.
Well, it's not figuring it out. It's like I can get used to these kind of things. It's all right. Okay, I get it. Problem is the mechanics. It tries to do so much, and it doesn't really get any of them down completely. You got the wall run, which would chain into your slash attack, which may send you somewhere that you do or don't want to be. I've died in pits because an enemy wasn't close enough when I wanted to slash, and when it did get close enough, it was automatically a downward slash. So I slashed myself into a pit.
Because your orientation was off.
Yes, and it would be fine
if I may though, I know you're ranting a bit though, man, but you won't talk about a campaign of the three that I think did a little too much was actually Plague Knight's campaign. If you ever give that a chance, there's a lot going on with Plague Knight. You have to manage three different jumps, a charge attack, different fusing and casings for his bombs because that's how he fights. His artifacts, multiple platforming tricks. It is an aerial. It is an aerial nut. It's a mess.
right, and like that's my problem with the game. Like the mechanics, they're nice. Like I understand why they're in the way they are, and I can appreciate that. But there's something about it that just for me doesn't work very well.
And that really is sad because have you played the base game? Have you played the original Shovel Knight?
No, actually, that one was on you. I end up playing the Spectre.
I would say check out the original Shovel Knight and use that as a base to get used to it because the original Shovel Knight was compared to Spectre and Plague Knight is a much more elegant experience.
But the thing is, you played Treasure Trove, right?
I bought Treasure Trove.
Right. So
I bought the full version on my Wii U. I bought the full version on PlayStation Network. Yeah, I triple dipped for this. I love this game so much.
So I'm actually gonna let you talk about Trove because I end up playing Spectre for this review. Actually, I got it.
I did buy Treasure Trove, but I also played extensively Spectre of Torment because I also reviewed.
Right.
This.
Yeah, but you got the review for. That's your cue to use your plug, man.
Damn it, man. I was doing that, then you interrupted me. I was doing that, and then you interrupted me. You interrupted my plug while I was doing the plug to do the plug.
Take two.
You're terrible.
That's your cue. So you actually reviewed it for...
I reviewed it for thegamefanatics.com. And
Game Fanatics!
Yes, I reviewed it for thegamefanatics.com, and I actually enjoyed Spectre Knight. I enjoyed Spectre of Torment extensively, probably because I was there at launch with the original Shovel Knight on the Wii U in 2014. I remember loving the hell out of Shovel Knight, and the selling point of these other campaigns where you get to play as the other boss characters, Plague Knight, Spectre Knight, is you learn more about the world from their perspective. and it adds a certain level of world building to the series because it's funny I say that because Shovel Knight, at its very core, is an old throwback platformer about a hero in a fantasy world off to save the world from some evil force of nature, and also dealing with the grief of a lost loved one. It is big, broad fantasy with a lot of quirks and a lot of charm, and it's also a very challenging, hard as hell platformer. Like I die multiple times on this thing, and I've been playing platformers like this all my life, and I still enjoy it. And like the biggest thing was like Shovel Knight, straightforward adventure. Plague Knight was a side story where you find out why Plague Knight is doing the evil stuff he's doing, and it is unbelievably cheesy and fun. The Spectre Knight DLC is actually a prequel, which is showing how the evil end character of the main adventure, the Enchantress, amassed her evil army and her evil knights of the Order of No Quarter, and how Spectre Knight helped her, which I thought was cool. And there's also these flashback levels where you get to play how Spectre Knight became Spectre Knight, and it was fun to see that expressed in gameplay. Like, this is why I love Yacht Club Games' work. It isn't just making a polished platformer. They add a lot of character and charm to it and do not miss a beat when it comes to world building and character development, because that can happen. You don't have to dedicate massive amounts of cutscenes to get a good plot going. It can just be small, simple things, and they do a good job with that. So, and I feel as if because of that baggage and because of my muscle memory of playing these platformers, I gravitate towards Spectre or Torment a bit better than you. And I mean that in an empathetic way, and not in a condescending tone.
No, no, no. It makes sense. Like you definitely have more experience that I did than I do. But even though I somewhat enjoyed it, it was a frustrating enjoyment. It was like, oh wow, I really want to get past this because I know I can. It's just sometimes mechanics would just get in the way of that. So
Like
even when you're good at the game, sometimes depending on certain placements, the mechanic is a double-edged sword. It's both a good and
I
bad thing.
once, but once again, speaking personally, I got enough. There was enough tells to how Spectre Knight's stuff worked that I figured out how to utilize it. But even then, there were instances where I did get the tar kicked out of me due to a misinput of some kind. Like there's a mini game where you have to ascend this tower and see how far you can get before time runs out and you get like stopped. And more times than I can count, I accidentally killed myself because I tried doing a diagonal jump slash to get up higher, and it hit the button too soon, and I dive bombed to my death.
I've done that so many times. Oh,
So I'm not immune to it either.
yeah, yeah.
But yes, my full review of Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment is available at thegamefanatics.com. I believe my score was a 9 out of 10. Does a lot of good stuff well. My final playthrough runtime clocked in at about 5 hours. So take that for what you will, considering I have 3 years of experience with it. But the New Game Plus mode broke me. New Game Plus Spectre of Torment is one of the hardest things I've played. I got through level 1 and then I stopped because I was gripping the controller so hard.
All right. Well, as for me, again, it's a fun game. It really is. It's a fun, challenging game. Sadly, the mechanics kind of get in the way of that and makes it unnecessarily frustrating sometimes.
I love the artwork in the soundtrack though.
Oh yeah, like it's fun. Like it has this great old school, but it also feels modern at the same time. It
It's a good mix.
Yeah, it has this great mix of old and new. The controls themselves are fine. Again, it's the mechanics. Going against each boss, I wanted to face each boss because they were interesting to me.
Oh, I
And
love the design of the
oh yeah,
bosses.
their designs, their patterns, the way they attack, if they feel new, they don't feel like the same old boss over and over again, like Mega Man, where it's like, oh, jump dodge this, now slide over here. You might be able to hang on to this, but this one is more like, yeah, some enemies you can chain slash all your enemies, but one enemy might have like this giant rhino that could be running towards you at the same time that they're slashing at you, or you might face an enemy that can throw bullet hail style fireballs at you. It's a lot of fun, but the mechanics actually work during the boss fights, which is weird because usually that's the
Are you
challenge come in.
sure? Are you sure you're not just still getting used to the controls, Michael?
I am getting used to controls, but
Devil's advocate, I have to bring it up because
no, no, no.
there's going to be at least one person in the comments is going to be like, maybe you just
Yeah,
suck.
me get good, guy. You be okay. Just get good, bro. But no, like I had fun fixing the bosses. It was getting to the bosses was frustrating because sometimes the mechanics got in the way, but I pushed through it because it was fun. So
So,
I
okay.
would say it's more like a 3.5 out of 5 for me because again, the mechanics get in the way, and the mechanics, like you said, is the biggest part of the game. And when your biggest selling point is also the biggest hindering, I kind of get iffy on it. But it,
I'll,
but but it is
I'll say
fun.
I will say it again. I will say it again. Try playing the original Shovel Knight and graduating to the Plague Knight, Spectre Knight campaigns later.
Too late. I jumped ahead because it was a prequel, so I thought I'd jump into that. But yeah, yeah,
Whoops.
but yeah, I'm having fun with it so far. And once I
But of
get into Shovel
course,
Knight, I'll do my review for that one too.
I would definitely say go for it. Like if you're a big fan of any of the old platformers, like Mega Man, the old Ducktales, any of the Capcom platformers, you will have a good time. Which, of course, now brings us to the big selling point, the big one, the big game that everybody's talking about. I'm, of course, talking about 1-2 Switch.
Finally, I've been waiting to talk about this forever.
It should have been packaged in, and it's way overpriced at $50. Moving on.
5 out of 5. Too much Switch.
Okay, now for the real reason why you guys showed up. Super Bomberman R! Overpriced, moving on. And now I guess we'll also talk about, Zelda, maybe. I don't know. Do we have time?
Ooh, I mean, is that really a big game? Is that big enough to talk about?
Well, apparently, according to Nintendo, it's one of their best launch titles ever, outselling anything. So, yeah, I guess I'll have to give some time to it.
Well, I mean, if that's what we have to talk about, let's talk about Breath of the Wild.
All right, all right. Let's put the facetiousness aside and be very honest. I'm a huge Zelda fan. As of recording right now, right below my monitor are a bunch of Zelda amiibo. I picked up the Zelda themed Wii U. I have a still sealed copy of the Hyrule Historia in my room. I love me some Legend of Zelda. I played I was introduced with Ocarina of Time, the big Link to the Past graphic novel that was in Nintendo Power Magazine. I got a trade version of that. It's on my shelf. I love it. I'm a big Zelda fan. So, yeah, putting cards on the table. That's my front. Michael, what about you? How do you enjoy Zelda?
I liked the original. I enjoyed Wind Waker. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you say. Wind Waker was
I love Wind Waker
great.
too.
I don't know. A lot of people really didn't like Wind Waker until the
Well,
HD.
they're idiots.
Yeah, until the
Oh,
HD
shots fired.
re-release. But yeah, I thought Wind Waker was great, and Twilight Princess was okay, but Wind Waker is still one of my favorites. I'm not one of those people who are big into Ocarina of Time, so sue me.
Ocarina was my introduction to the Zelda franchise, but I did go back and play the originals. Like, I loved Link to the Past. The original Zelda made me grit my teeth, but I enjoyed it all the same. And I enjoyed Wind Waker as well, and I liked what Twilight Princess brought to the table, and I liked how it basically refined Ocarina of Time's formula. But I think Wind Waker was more stylistically holistic, to be
Yeah.
kind of
Plus,
artsy
it was
fartsy
plus
about
it was
it.
more fun. So that thing that we enjoy with video games, the FUN thing. I like that one, and I found Wind
Yes.
Waker to be very fun.
So yes, that was yeah. Also, Zelda was my introduction to the fantasy epic, so to speak. People cite Lord of the Rings or I don't know the Earthsea novels, I guess, or Harry Potter, whatever. No, Zelda was my introduction to the big sweeping stories of magical swords and sorcery and evil and heroes and fighting and kingdoms. Like that, and considering how after 30 years the Zelda timeline of the Zelda series has basically kind of created its own Tolkien level mythology. I am not angry at that at all.
Okay, so I'm guessing you enjoyed Breath of the Wild, yes?
Of course, so let's get to Breath of the Wild. My first impressions were wow. And then I pulled myself back and thought, wait a minute. What about X? What about Y? What about Z? I'm and I decided to test that and actually had like a day to myself. My entire day went by like it was nothing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Have I been sitting here all day playing this? Oh my gosh, I haven't eaten anything all day. I should probably go cook something. Right after I finished the shrine. Was there for 3 more hours.
Yeah, I know the feeling because I was doing the same thing before we started recording.
Yes,
People, I
this is
was.
true. This is true. We got together to record this episode, and I heard through Skype his Switch in the background. He was still playing Breath of the Wild.
I was playing it throughout our conversation while we were figuring out what we were gonna do with this episode, and I was like, yeah, man, sure, just let me get through this shrine. Okay, cool. I solved this puzzle. Let me get through this other shrine. Yeah. You can keep talking. So yeah, I was playing well through our conversation.
Professionalism, people.
Hey, and if it didn't make too much noise, I would be playing right now while we're recording. What?
It would be a horrible episode, but he'd do it.
Man, I would not be concentrating on this episode at all. Instead, you guys would hear like random swears and me being mad at electric bats and stupid storms. And you know what? Screw Thundra Plateau. Hate that
But
place.
but of course, let's kind of give a brief kind of overview for kind of our impressions of the game. Like, it's a Zelda game. You wake up as Link. You within 5 minutes, the game just kicks you into Hyrule Field and says, "Okay, you're up now. The princess is in danger. Ganon is messing up Hyrule. Go save the world." Also, by the way, he kind of already won 100 years ago, and you just woke up from a coma.
Well,
Figure stuff out.
it was
Go.
more like it was a tie. It's like, oh yeah, Calamity Ganon is there, but the princess is kind of still fighting him. So
Holding him off.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it's like a standoff right now. Hyrule is just it just got messed up because of the war, and it's recovering from the
yeah.
effects of said war.
Yeah, the new Zelda game is effectively you come in around the time Ganon is about to win. Hyrule is basically fallen. The kingdom is scattered. People are gone. You see the remains of battlefields, and you show up, and it's like, oh my.
And that's the one
Like,
thing I really appreciated about this one. Like, there's lore in there that you don't even have to dig deep for. There's people who were never around those 100 years ago who talk about how their grandparents talked about the war and how it affected everything. And you can find these old ruins and you can find broken machinery that was used during said war. You can even find creatures that are still roaming around after said war. The little creatures that I believe are poisonous. No, I forgot what they were, but they were part of Calamity Ganon.
yeah, of course, those weird sort of manifestations of his power. But yes, Breath of the Wild. This is something that people have mentioned. I'm part of it. They've said that modern Zeldas have become way too scripted, way too hands off with their cutscenes, which I personally enjoyed when they were adding to the world and adding to things and adding to the gravitas of the situation. But at the same time, they also coupled it with very long, overly drawn out tutorials. Like the biggest offender was Skyward Sword, which I'm not as against as everybody else has been because it was trying to basically ease into more into motion controls and they have to get that right. But even then, people hated how patronizing it was, how they kept interrupting you. Breath of the Wild is the exact opposite of that. There's a basic tutorial area where you learn how to fight, cook, and use some very basic items you get, like bombs or magnetic gloves or the ability to freeze water to make platforms. After that, they give you a paraglider and say, go out and figure stuff out for yourself. Learn. Make mistakes.
And that's also one of the bad things about it. It doesn't tell
No.
you anything about any stuff you got. Like here's a spirit orb. Okay, what's it for? You'll find out sooner or later. Okay.
No. I would say that was a good thing. That was part of the tutorial. You couldn't get out until you learned what the spirit orbs were used for.
No, that's not true.
This
That's not what happened with me. It just kicked me out. It's like, here's an orb. All right, see ya. Oh, something goddess. Bye. Wait. So
You go and get you go get the shrines, you get the four orbs, and then the old man you're talking to says go to this temple,
Yeah,
and then you find out,
and
oh, the orbs are basically the new pieces of
yeah,
heart.
yeah,
Okay,
and I dislike that because I found the shrines before. I found one of the statues like I'm the goddess. This and that. It's like, oh, that's cool. So I guess I did nothing with this, and it's because I didn't have enough orbs, and because you don't have enough orbs, they don't care about you. So it's like, you suck.
I I liked the intrigue of that. This is probably going to be where we're going to be butting heads, but this is the big thing I actually brought up when I was on Wrong X Button. The minute Breath of the Wild clicked for me was when I pulled up the game's map, and there were no markers. There were no markers there at the beginning. There was absolutely no collectibles here, no mini thing here, no side mission here. It's the exact opposite of what Ubisoft has done with the Assassin's Creed games. They don't overload the map with nebulous padding that they tell you is
Yeah, and
content.
to be honest, I appreciate that greatly because
And I love
yeah, I'm
that.
so sick of maps that's cluttered with junk. Watch Dogs 2 does that too. I got sick of that.
The Ubisoft sandbox knows no franchise. It will go to anything. They're doing it to Ghost
Oh my
Recon now, for
goodness.
goodness
It's yeah,
sake.
it's awful. But
And because of that, I really got sick of the sandbox structure just being here's places of interest, here's where you need to go for X, here's where you need to go for Y. But
and
Zelda's like, listen here, we have developed this map with very clear lines of sight and a very bright, striking art aesthetic where you can tell where things are, and we have areas of interest that pop up, that visually pop everywhere else. Here's a map, and here is a very extensive tool set for you to mark your own map so you can keep track of where you are, so you have to explore and look for yourself. And the minute they gave me that, I lost it. I traveled everywhere. I went everywhere I could possibly go and made marks and traveled and
and
got in over my
and you
head
know
and
what?
climbed mountains and swam, and it was liberating. It was
And you know
great.
it's fun and all, but I ran into that same problem I had with stuff like Elder Scrolls. If you give me the freedom to do anything, I get sick of it. But with Breath of the Wild, it somehow managed to keep everything interesting because the lands change, the enemies change depending on where you are and what land you get to, and you don't need 16 towers in one section Ubisoft in order to find your map. You find one
There
tower.
are tow-
No,
there are towers that can chart the map,
no, no, no.
but they're very
Right, right.
low.
That's what I'm saying. Like you find one tower, and it reveals a large part of that map, and
And
it gives you
yeah,
enough details. Like, oh, that mountain I see you over there. I could look on this map and see what that mountain is. And if you know anything about map reading, you could kind of tell how steep some of the maps are. It's not as detailed as the real map, but it gives you a good idea. So I was able to find certain things easily by being on top of that tower, looking ahead of myself, marking other towers that you can see far off into the distance, like on the other side of the map. And
and make your trek
yeah,
there.
make your trek by horse, go right ahead. By climbing mountains, go right ahead. You want to glide, go right ahead. I was like, you know what? This is what I'm talking about. Give me different ways to travel other than run here, horse here.
Fast
Congratulations.
travel.
Which I appreciate the fast travels
I do enjoy how they use it, but
because
sometimes I actually forget I have
not
it.
me because it allowed me to get to certain sections quickly because those shrines are close enough to each other to where they feel like checkpoints, so you can
Yeah,
fast travel to there and not just the towers and then float down. I can go to certain shrines, usually near stables, and find my way there, track where I want to go to a stable, pick up my horse, and just ride. Which is one thing that I really liked about Breath of the Wild. It made open world fun for me, and I'm the type of
it
person
remind
who
it,
gets sick of open world.
it reminded me of why I enjoyed what can be done with the sandbox structure. Because if you really think about it, going back to the original Legend of Zelda, that was basically open world as well. You could do dungeons out of order. You can do stuff that the game normally wouldn't let you do, but it would let you go with it anyway. As long as you finished the 8 dungeons and beat Ganon, the game will be like, okay, go ahead, figure it out for yourself, because that's kind of the same story that goes on here in Breath of the Wild. We're going to be very light with spoilers because this game does have a plot and it does have a lot of world building, but it's kind of minimalist and kind of hard to find. But it's basically you have to go and find four major dungeons in the world, clear them, and that will effectively help you make the final battle against Ganon more manageable. Because at any point you can just go right to Hyrule Castle and try to fight Ganon with the stuff you have currently. You'll probably die horribly before you even get there, which is one thing I can say. Breath of the Wild does challenge you, but in a good way. But that's the structure. You can go right there and fight Ganon, but if you finish these dungeons and do these trials, it will make the battle more manageable, while also, helping you get more powerful, so you can stand a better chance. And that's a much more organic way of going about it, rather than, doing the usual dungeon structure. And I'm not knocking the original dungeon structure at all. It's just how they've gone about it. Like, 4 dungeons, people are probably going to equate this to Termina from Majora's Mask, except we've talked about before, there are now shrines throughout the world. They're basically mini dungeons, which have like a puzzle or a battle you have to do. And by finishing those, you unlock spirit orbs, which are basically the pieces of heart for this game. You get 4 of them, you go to a shrine, you pray to it, and you can choose to either increase your health bar or increase your stamina bar, so you can climb for longer periods of time or run longer. And everything else after that is just RPG elements, where you get armor, get different weapons, get different bows, different types of arrows. And as I said before, you figure stuff out as you go and learn. And the game doesn't leave you completely in the dark. There are NPCs and there are cutscenes, which do give more context to things. It's just, it doesn't beat you over the head. It isn't. There's no Navi. There is no Minish Cap. There is no fee. There is no annoying guide that just says, "Oh, by the way, there's a boss battle behind this door that you just found the key for, so watch out." To which you respond, "No shit."
Yeah, the story is quite simple. It's so simple that so many characters repeat the same thing you've already heard over and
and yet
over
I
and
don't,
over again.
and yet I don't really mind that. Like this
Well,
is also the
because
big thing.
it doesn't beat you over the head. Like you said, it doesn't beat you over the head. Like every 5 minutes, you went on this, you went exploring. It's like, hey, we know you've been exploring for a while. Here's a reminder of some of the things that's going on with a few extra hints and a little bit of world building. But you're mostly hearing people say the same thing over again. With that said,
Like this is actually something I was talking about when it comes to the world design. Like, the conceit behind why Link isn't this all powerful awesome guy at the beginning of Breath of the Wild is because they basically say that due to mysterious events that happened 100 years ago that led to him waking up recently, is that he was beat down and he has amnesia. So there's a sort of learning curve almost to what everything goes on. And there are these things in the game called memories, where you basically get screenshots of places in the world, and if you can find where they are roughly, you will unlock a cutscene to Link's memory. And these are fully voice acted, fully motion captured cutscenes of showing Link's past and his history with major characters. And these, for me, are brilliant. These, for me, are great at how they handle things. Like, once again, I'm not going to say a whole lot, but I accidentally stumbled upon Zora's Domain while traveling. And I found this entire subplot involving this Zora champion and the Divine Beast and Link's relationship with the Zora people. And based off the memories I discovered while traveling, it actually hit me emotionally as to what happened in this world. Like, this is another arc adventure of Zelda and the world of Hyrule, but the voice acting is done so well, it adds so much gravitas and sense of scale to everything. And that is what amazed me. And the voice actors are good. Like, this is a first for the series, and they got some good voice actors.
British
Having said that,
actors.
what?
British actors. Like you can tell some of them have like a pretty thick accent.
That is the strange thing. Like, some of the actors I was fine with, like the voice of Mipha and Sidon in Zora's Domain, I liked. They had sort of a regal thing to it. But then again, the Zoras always kind of had this sort of regal, almost like Tolkien's elves kind of feel to them.
My biggest
But
thing is Zelda. She
Zelda,
had that.
Zelda weirded me out.
She had that thing going on. I was like, wait, is she Elven? Because she sounds more British.
Link, please help me. I what?
It's like, wait,
Like,
when did you become British? When did this? I didn't. Is that how Link sounds? Okay, cool.
this is This is the weirdest thing about adding voice acting into a franchise that's been going 30 years strong. You after a while you kind of develop an idea as to how certain characters should sound, and when they have a voice actor that doesn't match that, it's a bit jarring. Like a friend of mine mentioned to me before, like, oh, that's basically what happened to major Final Fantasy characters when they were brought into Kingdom Hearts. Like, oh, I know how Aerith sounds, and they have some homunculus voicing Aerith, and they're like, no, this doesn't equate. But I'm not saying Zelda is as bad as Aerith in Kingdom Hearts. Not by a long shot. Like, once again, the voice actress is good and she sells it, but it's just weird hearing a British accent.
It really is because they don't even try to hide it. It's like it's there up front and center.
Oh, yes. But yeah, there is some good world building, and believe it or not, people are still trying to figure out where on the Zelda timeline this lies.
I,
We're not going to speculate on it here.
I mean,
but
I still say it's part of the failure timeline, but you did bring up a couple good points that might make it adult. See, I'm still saying the failure timeline.
you're saying failure timeline. I'm saying adult timeline because I think a character at one point has actually referenced the Twilight Wars. So like, okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah. When you brought that up, it could be adult Link timeline, but he looks way too young for
but
But then again, look at Zelda.
it's not. Remember, it's not the same hero. The spirit of the hero
Right, right,
reincarnates.
and
So
from
yeah,
what we learned at the beginning, they kind of mess with that anyway. So it might be a failure timeline.
it is very like once again, guys, ladies and gentlemen, Zelda fans alike. This is what's fun about Breath of the Wild. They went back to their basic roots. They went back to the basics. Like once again, the original Zelda had world building as well, and they did so with so little. Breath of the Wild, the same, and now Breath of the Wild is doing something much similar with having a very good art direction. Like graphically, I've seen a lot better. Visually, it is serviceable, but the art direction is great. The art direction pops. Everything feels great. Like a friend of mine actually thought it looked way too much like Wind Waker, and she preferred the darker tone of Twilight Princess, and she thought the aesthetic wasn't right for Breath of the Wild. And it's funny that she mentioned that because Breath of the Wild so far actually has some very dark overtones to it if you really look into the context of what's going on. Like there's actually a mechanic in the game called the Blood Moon where they actually have it be that every couple of nights or so the sky turns red, the moon turns blood red, and every enemy you killed in the world comes back. Like, it's basically a way to do a global respawn of major enemies, and these are enemies that will kick you to the curb like they're nothing. And it happened to me after I wiped out an entire mountain range full of moblins, and I think a lot, and some bokoblins. I'm like, okay, perfect. Now I'm just going to get a fireplace going so I can rest, and then the blood moon hit, and they're all back, and I had to run.
That's happened to me while I was trying to climb a tower. Those stupid little fairy things that hops around on their own and like either shoot fire or electric wand.
The whiz robes.
Yeah, I hate those things because it's kind of hard to kill them because you need to hit them with arrows and they won't sit still. But I got rid of a few of those. I got rid of the lizard things that were swimming around, and I can't remember, was it smoblins? I don't know. They were swimming around in the water. Finally got rid of them. Blood moon hit. Guess what happened? They all came back, and I was surrounded by enemies.
Surprise.
Surprise, Mother Russia. And I promptly died because I was so low on heart, and before I even filled my heart back up. Careful, Link. Wait, no! Rah. Click. Oh,
Careful,
well.
Link. The blood moon rises once more. Why are you British?
Can't you do something about this, please? But, okay, we talked about gameplay experience. Now let's talk about some of the negatives. I've talked to you about this before we even started. Weapons management and just the way the system holds itself with the D-pad. Well, it's not really a D-pad now, is it? Yeah, I'll still call it D-pad.
It's the D-pad. It's the D-pad. If it's on the left side, it's the
Yeah,
D-pad.
I'm still gonna call it a D-pad. I'm just used to seeing it one certain way. Nintendo actually switched that up. But anyway, using a D-pad to switch weapons is one thing, but the point that you have to hold a certain, like when you want to change your bows, you have to hold the R.
You have to have the ZR button so Link takes out the bow, so it switches to alternating between arrows and bows as opposed to shields and swords.
Yeah, and it's awful because if you're getting attacked by something and you're out of bows, it doesn't automatically switch. You have to
You have to go to your inventory and manually equip a new bow.
yeah, you
Yeah.
have to manually equip that. Manually equip a new arrow. So if you're getting chased down by something, you have to stop Link so you can charge up. Well, not charge up, but you have to pretty much while you're trying to run away, hit RZ, quickly switch to your new weapon of choice, and hope that he isn't still charging because I've lost arrows this way. While I pulled back my bow while I still had an electric arrow, switched to ice arrow, and when I switched back and I let go of the Z without pressing B to cancel, I end up using the one arrow I was trying to use and missed. So, yeah, it becomes cumbersome when you're in the middle of a fight. And since every
It's
weapon, well, nearly every weapon breaks, you're going to be doing this constantly.
yeah.
And it's not that it's a bad system, because it is. Well, no, it's not that it's a bad system. It's an annoying,
It's
unconventional
annoying.
system, and it's one thing that
It's
should have been fixed during when they first thought of this stuff up.
it's weird because I do enjoy the diversity of weapon types you do get in the game. The halberds, the spears, the swords, the claymores, and even the wands. You can actually pick up the wands, the whiz robes, leave behind, and cast spells with them. And I enjoy the diversity of the bow types. There's actually like different types of bows. And I enjoy the RPG elements when it comes to the durability of the weapons. The problem is you can run into multiple situations where you get in over your head and you wind up basically throwing everything but the kitchen sink at them. Like, I actually had a situation where I accidentally bumped into a boss battle. There's actually like there actually are these roaming bosses throughout the game. You can get good items from them, and I wound up running out of melee weapons. I had to run away. I didn't have anything to fight him with, and I had to take
And
off.
with the way everything, with the way that every enemy you fight pretty much drops a weapon, you think it'd be impossible to do that. But there's no way to tell when a weapon's going to break. It'll just tell you, hey, your weapon's getting kind of
It's
weak.
badly damaged, so
Yeah, it's like
it'll flash red in your inventory. So maybe one or two more hits before it's
yeah,
gone.
it's like, can I fix it? No, 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 no. You just better pick up something else. Oh, okay.
And I do enjoy. This is why I don't think it's a big issue though. Weapons are plentiful. As long as you're fighting certain enemies, they usually are holding a melee weapon. So, and I've bumped situations where I just pick up a weapon right off the bat and it auto equips to you, and I just got back into the fray.
But you also got to keep in
It,
mind, weapons all do different types of damage. So if you had a great weapon that breaks and you're facing cruddy enemies, guess what you're picking up? Cruddy
any
weapons.
any port in a storm, which this is coming also from a playthrough, my playthrough, because I went to Zora's Domain. I found out the Zora weapons are predominantly well known for high durability. They don't have the best damage, but they will last a long time. It's not as big an issue for me currently because I actually got weapons that are basically guaranteed to not break anytime soon. So I have a bit of a buffer, but early game, get used to throwing weapons that are about to break at your enemies and improvising on the fly. And that you
Unless you
brought
have a
this up.
bow or a shield, you can't throw those for some reason. You can only throw melee weapons.
What do you think you are, Captain America?
Well, I'm just saying, I would like to be able to get rid of these cruddy shields when I find a hero shield. I was like, oh, your inventory's full. Oh, well, can I just drop this now? You better wait for it to break. What the world, man? I could throw
You
away a
can't,
cruddy sword or a
dude.
club.
You can't just drop the
Well,
shields.
excuse me.
No, don't you?
Well, excuse me, princess. I thought I'd be able to drop this stupid shield and pick up a better one, or better
A
yet,
bit of an aside here. A bit of a side here, people. Link remains mute in this game. Don't
which is
worry,
kind,
he stays
which is
quiet.
kind of
Thank
weird
God.
because you can see that he talks to other people. Was like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
there are dialogue options, but it keeps looking like he's very capable of telling people through body language. Like imagine him just like doing sign language. But
Yeah, it's really weird. So not only is management of weapons cumbersome at time, but
although I can't say that's really a negative because it also helps facilitate planning
it it,
and
it would
scouting.
be fine if I don't mind weapons breaking because weapons break way too often in this. My problem is the mechanics of management. The point that I can't drop a shield that I don't want and pick up a better one. The point that I can't drop a cruddy bow that I don't like for a better one. The point that you can only
Basic
throw your
quality of
sword.
life stuff. Basic quality of life stuff where you can just equip immediately the item you just found that's better than
Yeah,
what you have, and
yeah,
dropping it.
that and the point that
Simple user interface convenience
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Is the user interface, the ability to switch weapons is ridiculous. Gosh darn it! And
Ridiculous, 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 ridiculous,
we, we, we,
ridiculous. We're
we
professionals, people.
yeah, we get swifty with it. We're tiny Ricks, but
Tiny Rick. I'm
tiny
sorry.
Rick. But that's like my biggest complaint. Which when you think about it, it's not that
Is a
bad.
is a really is a really minor nitpick.
Yeah, it's like the game is fun. The world is well built. The lore is good. The characters' design are wonderful. The voice acting actually works. My biggest complaint: weapons management. Oh no!
Yes,
Again, it's just like with
and
Shovel Knight. My big thing was the mechanics. It's something about the mechanics that get in the way that makes me so frustrated. It's like, man, your game is so fun. It's too bad your mechanic gets in the way.
but I honestly don't really have a whole lot of complaints personally with my playthrough, what I've experienced with Breath of the Wild, because as I said, it's a sandbox, but it's reminding me of why I love sandbox structure, why I used to enjoy the idea of a sandbox, because it doesn't overload you with too much to do that's meaningless, like Ubisoft with their collectathons and their sandbox. But at this, there's actually an interview I read somewhere where Eiji Onuma, the director of Zelda, played some other games not made by Nintendo. There were sandboxes to get ideas as to how to best basically use Zelda elements in an open world structure. And he cited two big games that he took inspiration from. And one of them was actually CD Projekt Red's The Witcher 3. And because I heard that, I felt where they drew inspiration because The Witcher 3 sandbox worked so well because there was just enough there to keep your interest that all served a very direct and express and diverse purpose, but there was also plenty of areas where it was just atmospheric, where it helped make the world feel alive and real. It didn't have to throw enemies or content or collectibles or, dungeons and treasure at you at every single inch. There could just be instances where I'm just on a mountain range and the wind is blowing and the grass is moving and it's after I fought for my life and recovered a tower and I'm en route to a mountain that I heard may hold a fountain of great wisdom or something, and I can just let the atmosphere flow. And the game notices this too because it has a very small, melancholic sort of piano with light strings score, and when that starts playing, it's almost like the relaxing theme of Minecraft. You just feel zen, and that is very difficult to do without completely boring the player. It modulates pacing and modulates engagement. It isn't just all action or all hunting for stuff you need all the time. It has moments where it can breathe, and it does that so well.
So, final thoughts. What did you think of Breath of the Wild?
Technically I've only experienced maybe a quarter of the game's map, and I've only finished one of the four major dungeons. But this might be one of my favorite games of the Zelda series ever. And I don't say that lightly. Like, I hold a lot of Zelda games very close to my heart, but Breath of the Wild is really something special, people. That's all I really can say.
That's actually pretty fair because like we both agree that Wind Waker was great. We both like Wind Waker, and this takes bits of games that were great about Wind Waker, like the art style. Well, not the art style, but like the artistic look of it. The point that wind actually does play a bit of a role in certain things. The
Oh, yeah, the paraglider.
Yeah, and even a little boat you can get.
Mm-hmm.
The puzzles are innovative. Well, not innovative, but
Puzzles are very well put
yeah,
together.
the puzzles are actually quite fun because
The puzzles feel like puzzles. This isn't the shoot eye with arrow to open door puzzle. It feels you feel clever for actually figuring these things
Yeah,
out.
even when they're simple, pulling them off is what makes you feel good because you feel like you accomplished something. Like, oh, you went all this way to this one part. Now there's a puzzle. It's like, oh, so I didn't just travel here just to see another cutscene or hear somebody talk. I'm actually here for a reason, and I'm actually accomplishing something. So the puzzles are great. The open world is open enough, and even though it can feel kind of empty at times, that's a good thing because everything that kills you can kill you with one or two hits, depending on how far along you are. Um, I I'm enjoying the story. I haven't finished it yet, and the characters are actually pretty interesting. I enjoy meeting the new characters because they all have special little quirks and personalities to them,
Oh
and
yeah,
I like my
the
horse.
the, the married couple in Kakariko Village kept cracking me up.
Everybody's so fun to meet. Even some of the more shisty characters are fun and full of life and personality. But
And,
I
and,
like
and here's something else. Here's something as well that really does amaze me about now thinking about Breath of the Wild. There's almost no loading screens. Aside from loading
the
screens when you go into
shrines. Yeah,
shrines and coming out, everything is consistent. There's no loading screen. There is no big wall to wait off. You see something, you can go there, and it will stay consistent.
yeah. So yeah,
That
yeah. Like
that goes a long way for immersion, and it
yeah.
works.
It's one of those things like you see it, you can go to it and not have to worry about loading screens. And man, that's awesome. So for me, easily 4 out of 5. It's not a perfect game, but my goodness, is it fun and a great reason just to get a Switch. So yeah, I'd
This is
say
a
go out and
console
get it.
seller. I'm not reviewing Breath of the Wild for the Game Fanatics, so I'm nowhere near playing it the same way I would play a game for review purposes. But as you said, there are some problems here and there, but the stuff that they get so right is so unbelievably well done that it glosses over those problems. Like, I want certain publishers to look at Breath of the Wild and take notes. I want them to say, for me, this is why Nintendo does is always is such a venerable studio. They do an open world Zelda game. It's interesting to see what they prioritize. And for me, they got everything that you need to get right for a sandbox unbelievably right. So, if I would actually give it a 9.5 out of 10. That's the highest score I've given any game in 2017 so far. That is how much I feel about Breath of the Wild.
All right, so finish up Zelda, and now we can get to the nerd thing that you wanted to talk about so bad. A little bit of that Mass Effect Andromeda.
What do we have? Do we even have time? Hey Mac, do we have time? I don't work for you. Dang it.
He's not getting paid, so whatever.
Yeah, whatever. He makes.
So
Oh,
yeah, we might actually have to do a part 2 of this. Make it the Mass Effect episode where we'll talk about a couple of the gameplay they've been showing, our expectations for it, because you and I are both well known to be fans of the original trilogy, and we both been known to be pretty critical for Andromeda because, well, this new Bioware hasn't really been hitting on but it's been firing on all sixes. So
yeah.
there's that
So
and D&D talk. So part 2 then.
yeah, yes, I do want to actually make this a thing. It's always fun. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, these have been our thoughts on the Nintendo Switch and the games of interest that have accompanied its launch: Shovel Knight: Spectre of Torment, and of course, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. If you want to pick our brains even more about how we feel about video games, game design, or even just read more about what we like to write about, you can follow me on Twitter at Darth Rahu, capital D, capital R, all one word. You may also read my content on my own personal blog at cybertavern.blogspot.com. I have a new special article up every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, usually involving game reviews or actually discussion of animation. And I'm also the reviews editor at thegamefanatics.com. So if you want to read more of my reviews or more of the stuff I cover, feel free to check those guys out. We're all a pretty awesome crew. And that's it for me. Michael, where can we follow you?
You can of course find me on Twitter at Zafmod, ZAFMOD, or you can even use my Twitter username at M_MOSLEY_JR. I also have a little blog, but that's random. It updates whenever it updates. But you can also find me on Snapchat because I got the new spectacles. So I've been using those.
You're dead to me. Snapchat?
So yeah, if you want to see random stupid first person views because I have them, why not use them? You can find me on Snapchat, of course, using my username Zafmod, ZAFMOD.
You may also friend request us on the Nintendo Network with my network ID of Rahu. I need friends.
And I may not be using their online system anyway, except for Splatoon 2 little test fire. But yeah, if you want to find me on the Switch, I don't even remember what username I had on there. It might just be Mikey, Mikey. So
Oh, that's not going to get annoying at all.
yeah, right. It was like, oh, I can't find this guy. Oh well, it's not like he's gonna look for me anyway.
Do you mean Mikey R, Mikey C, Mikey B, or Mikey Banana Fan Fofike? Darn it!
Mikey Nikes.
Darn it. I believe that'll be it for this recent episode of That Random Podcast Show, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you guys have a Switch and enjoy it, good for you. If not, oh well, give it time. You'll come to us eventually.
It's worth it. It's a good system. Just don't take it outside. You'll be okay.
Unless you want to take it outside. We're not the bosses of you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.